Good afternoon. Welcome to the May 15th Community Services and Parks meeting. We're starting at 2:34. Could I have a roll call?
Yes, Commissioners Alcazar,
Here.
Kafayan,
Here.
Sardarbegian,
Here.
Wolfson is absent, President Meek.
Here.
Okay, the agenda for the May 15, 2023 regular meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, May 12, 2023. Item 2, introductions and presentations. At A, recognition of volunteers and donors.
Next item on the agenda. I guess this is Onig.
Me. Good afternoon, President Meek, members of the commission. As you know, we have a number of volunteers that volunteer their time and assist with staff in a number of programs. This past year, we've had over 50 volunteers in various programs such as recreation programming, homeless services, our Trails and Open Space program. So what we're going to do today is we're going to recognize our volunteers section by section. I'm going to start with the homeless services section and then hand it over to recreation staff for Trails and Open Space as well as community centers. So the homeless services section, volunteers basically worked on the annual homeless count, which is dependent upon a host of community volunteers, local homeless service providers, community organizations, and staff to successfully and safely conduct the homeless count with accuracy, compassion, and dignity. Special thanks to the City of Glendale's Information Services Department for developing the Glendale Unsheltered Homeless Count 2023 survey and providing essential technical support before, during, and after the count. Special thanks to the Glendale Police Department and outreach teams from Essentia and Home Again Los Angeles, who were instrumental in planning, leading, and ensuring safety for all involved during the street count. We also had individual volunteers. The first two commissioners, President Meek and Commissioner Alcazar. From Dignity Health Glendale Memorial, we had Bradley Grody, Cassie McCarty, Dan Murphy, Jim Zolnowski, Pamela Flores, Joe Welton, and Cora Guivatin.
Onig, if I may,
Yes.
could we maybe take them individually so that they can come up and take a photo? Do you want to?
Dignity Health Glendale Memorial, they had volunteers the day of the count, and they also donated a number of hygiene kits and blankets to our homeless individuals that were passed out during the count. So we do thank Dignity Health Glendale Memorial Hospital. If I can invite Bradley, Cassie, Dan, Jim, and Pamela up. Are they here?
President Meek, if you would
And
like
the
yourself,
commissioners.
or if any of the commissioners would like to go down to take a photo with them. Up to you.
Not everybody could make it, but we brought almost everybody. Perfect. If I missed anyone, my apologies. I'm going off the list they gave me.
Thank you.
We also had Essentia. Anyone from Essentia here?
No.
No? Okay. Leadership Glendale, Tagui, I see. Please come up. Leadership Glendale also was instrumental in securing funds and participating during the homeless count. Thank you. Our next organization, Shelter Partnership. They also donated supplies. No one? Okay. Our second partner is the police department. We had a licensed clinical social worker, Ms. Hera Patel, and our community relations officer, Officer Celine Corrales. Thank you. The partnership we have with the Glendale Police Department and their community relations. The partnership we have with the Glendale Police Department and the Homeless Outreach Team is a really good one. We have a number of cities throughout LA County that would like to mirror the collaboration that we have with the police department. So I do thank Lieutenant Alex Krikorian as well as Sergeant Prokosh, Officer Kim, and Officer Corrales, and all the other community relations officers that work day in and day out handling our homeless individuals and clients. So thank you. The next group is our IT department. Mr. Hovik Chalaspanian will be accepting the certificate as well as his team. We have
You guys want to all come up and
Yeah.
take a photo with them?
We have a number of people from the department. We have Tao, Jason Bradford, Hago Povsepian, Irma, Isayan, Mara Karamian. Excellent. And Doug Strong. Thank you. So our next section, I would like to invite our Trails and Open Space specialist, Ms. Devron Shudik, my apologies, even though we worked 5 years in the same office. Six. I would like to invite Devron to thank her team and her volunteers.
Yes, may I tell you something about them?
Absolutely.
So first of all is Jerry Burnham. Jerry has a long history with the City of Glendale's Community Services and Parks. He goes back to the mid-2000s when he worked with Dave Moreno in the Verdugo Mountains. He has been with Trails and Open Space since before the station fire, but then the station fire put everything on hold, and he's been with me ever since. He installed a demonstration garden at Duke Majan Wilderness Park. He's also part of the Stone Barn Vineyard Conservancy. He maintains the water systems and the vines of the historic vineyard in Duke Majan. And just as an aside, he's a quartermaster of the La Crescenta Valley VFW and chaplain of the Verdugo Hills American Legion, and that's Jerry. Bobcat has been with the City of Glendale Trails and Open Space since 2010. He is a Duke Majan dirt dog. That's what we call the group. He does trail safety patrol since 2013. He volunteers at all my interpretive hikes and my campfire programs. He supervises scouts for their Eagle Scout project because I can't actually work with them because I'm considered the beneficiary. I need to have somebody supervising what they do, and Bobcat does that. Also, you can find him many days in Montrose cleaning up for Glendale Beautiful. He's also a fire lookout at Vetter Mountain for the Angeles National Fire Lookout Association, and he's a former commissioner of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. So that's Bobcat. Robert Shudik has been a volunteer with Trails and Open Space since 2011. He's always at my wilderness work days, my river walk work days, my interpretive hikes, my campfire programs. He does regular cleanups around the ranch house at Ducomasian Wilderness Park. When you see all the pine needles swept up, that was him. He also fixed the flag. It only had 2 gromets and was flying kind of wonky. He put a 3rd gromet in it. Now it flies all beautiful. And just other various things that he can do to help out in the park. That's Robert Schuler. And that's all.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Thank you. Nice seeing you.
Thank you. The next section is the community center section, and I'd like to invite Seva Karabedian, our community services manager overseeing community centers.
Good afternoon, President Meek, members of the commission. So for the community centers, we have 2 volunteers that are present with us today. They're members of our Glendale Pickleball Association. And our Glendale Pickleball Association has been instrumental in bringing the sport of pickleball to Glendale and the surrounding neighborhood. So I'd like to invite Annie Mayer and Marshall Pura and recognize their services. Annie and Marshall are the first ones at Pacific when it comes to pickleballers. They're the ones that set out the nets. They're the ones that inform us that we need new equipment, whether it's a replacement net or more pickleballs. They try to organize various tournaments throughout the year, whether it's a memorial tournament or an invitational tournament. We have programs such as Pickleball for Parkinson's and Pickleball for Combat Vets, and these are 2 of the people that are instrumental in making those programs happen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next section is the sports section, and I'll have Gabrielle Golia, our community services manager overseeing sports, come up.
Good afternoon. Unfortunately, our sports volunteer wasn't able to make it today.
Oneg, if I may, the next 2, for the sports section and the senior recreation, the volunteers weren't able to make it. So just to name Dick Drover and Joseph Kavarian. So we thank them and everyone else for their hours of service, because without them, we couldn't do half the things that we do. So we appreciate all of you and wanted to say a big thank you. But I just wanted to make sure to say that the last person isn't here either.
And then President Meek and Regina, Commissioner Alcazar, I would like to give your certificates, so if you can wait. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you.
On the agenda, please.
Next is 2B, introduction of new community services and parks employees.
Thank you. Commissioner, my apologies, President Meek and commissioners. I know a couple months ago, we had brought you our new employees that we hired, our new full-time employees that we've hired. Moving forward, I asked staff to introduce new full-time employees that have been hired moving forward, so they can get to know you and you can get to know them. We do have 3 new full-timers that we've hired in the last month and a half. So I would like to invite, who's going to go up first? Mr. William Rivas, who's our new Community Services Supervisor over at Pacific Community Center.
President Meek, members of the commission, William Rivas comes to us from the city of LA. He's taking over the day-to-day operations for Pacific Community Center. So that includes the facility rentals, the mobile recreation packages, the childcare programs, all the events and activities based out of that facility. He comes to us with over 17 years of experience with the city of LA, and he's already been here for about 3 weeks, and with minimal supervision, he's already started to carry over a lot of the tasks, which helps most of us because we've got one more position to hire. So thank you, William, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our next employee is Jackie Waldman. She's our new Community Services Supervisor, overseeing the Trails and Open Space Program as well as the Nature Education Center up at Duke-Majan. I'd like to welcome Jackie Waldman.
Good afternoon, President Meek and members of the commission. I'm Gabrielle Golia, and I am thrilled to introduce you to Jackie Waldman. Jackie's actually been with us for a year as an hourly coordinator up at the barn, and she has been an integral part of getting all of our programming and activities and field trips and rentals going at the barn. She's our mastermind behind the Go Community program, as well as creating all of the lesson plans for the field trips. And we're about to start our second summer with the Nature Education Camp, the nature camp that's going on up there, and we're sold out. So we're super excited to welcome all of the kids up to the program. Jackie, before she came to the city, she worked at the LA Zoo as an education specialist, and she worked at KidSpace Children's Museum as a nature art specialist, and she has her BA from Whittier College. So welcome, Jackie.
Welcome, Jackie. Thank you.
Our next employee is Gamor Mirzakhanian. He's a Community Services Supervisor overseeing the Customer Service Office, citywide special events, and our youth summer day camp, seasonal day camp program. Gamor did start with the city as an hourly employee years ago. He worked his way up into a supervisory position, so I welcome Gamor.
Thank you. I'd like
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah. I'll say a few words about him briefly.
Yes.
He's been with the city, as Onig said, for many years, for 17 years already, both hourly and full-time, working his way up into a supervisor position. He worked as a pool manager at Pacific Community Pool. He assisted in our administration office, and he supported facility operations at Pacific Community Center, and then also worked with our senior programming at the Adult Recreation Center. So he has a bachelor's in recreation and hospitality management, and he's pursuing his master's in public administration right now. And we're very excited to have him here to help us out with all of our citywide special events and the camps. Again, all of our summer camps are sold out. So all of his programs will be full of children starting in just a month, which is really too soon for us. And he's going to jump into summer with Cruise Night this year. So we are so happy to have him helping out with Cruise Night.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, please.
Item 3, upcoming council agenda items.
Thank you, President Meek, members of the commission. On May 23rd, we have a budget study session for all the quality of life departments. So the Community Services and Parks Department will be taking their budget presentation on the 23rd. In the afternoon, we have a joint public meeting. We have 2 items on the agenda. The first item is acceptance of grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the 2022 Continuum of Care Program and the City of Glendale's 2023 Homeless Point in Time Count. The second item on the agenda will be the fiscal year 2023-2024 proposed annual action plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program. And in the evening, we have 2 action items, one being the Emerald Isle Playground Replacement and the ADA Improvement Project. And the second item would be a lease agreement between the City of Glendale and Southern California Edison for the use of real properties for the purpose of constructing a passive park on one of their sites. That's it.
Okay. Where was the passive park?
It's by Glorieta Park.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, please.
Item 4, commission staff comments.
Does anyone have any comment? Okay, Regina?
I did, just want to take the moment to also thank all of our volunteers who are here. Our room is full, which was nice to see. I know some people left, but that's okay. I've met a number of volunteers who, they've been involved with cleaning up our parks for years. They, volunteer monthly. Some folks have only volunteered once. But one thing is, for sure is that there's always a passion and dedication with our volunteers, which is amazing to see. And I think that means a lot to the types of programs and programming that we have with the Community Services and Parks Department to draw these types of people. And it's just, we want to thank every single one of you. I did also just want to thank the department for co-hosting a housing rights workshop earlier this month. I was able to attend. It was co-hosted with the Glendale Tenants Union Housing Rights Center. As we all know, many of the COVID-19 emergency tenant protections ended in April, and unfortunately, there's no clear, complete data to understand the extent of eviction rates that are happening right now. But I think services like this that our city puts together are very helpful. There are a number of people there that were very worried about their living situation. So I just want to do a plug as well. Because, if you are a renter in Glendale and you're experiencing housing insecurity, meaning you're at risk of potentially losing your home, please call 818-548-3926. You can also email rent@glendaleca.gov and to get some help. And you can also visit our city's website. That's glendaleca.gov/rent. That's it.
All right.
No comments.
I also wanted to thank all of the volunteers, whether it be the Riverwalk cleanups, the trail maintenance, the sports programs, the CERT program, senior recreation, community centers, homeless count. This is what makes Glendale such a terrific place to live. And I want to thank all of you and hope we all continue to do so. Thank you. Next item on the agenda.
President Meek, members of the commission, I believe there's a staff member that wants to make an announcement as well.
That would be me. Good evening, President Meek, members of commission. My name is Eileen Asayan. I oversee the Senior Services Unit, and today I am here to invite everybody to our Senior Street Fest, a 90-plus celebration that will take place this Thursday, May 18th at the Arts Paseo. The event will have music, food, and lots of fun, and we hope to see you guys there. I have some invitations that I'm going to pass around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is item 5, oral communications, and we do have a card.
Okay, and that would be Alan Dish. How many minutes does Alan? Is that?
5 minutes.
Thank you.
I'll be brief. Thank you, commissioners. Good afternoon. My name's Alan Dish, public space activist. I'll be very gentle. I'm here with a series of friendly complaints, so thank you for receiving me. I believe that public space is being threatened. Today in Glendale, I will give you some examples. The closing of Conrad's, it was not owned by the city, but it functioned as a kind of 24-hour open cafe, let's call it, which closed down, unfortunately. The closing of the balcony at the Americana Barnes & Noble, again, it's not totally part of Glendale, but it's our de facto public square. And then there was the closing of the eastern door at the library, but I will take that to arts and culture on at their meeting. So I'll focus on, I'm going to keep going, sorry. There's a couple of other things. I'm not sure why the Americana started charging $2 recently for parking. I mean, if you use it at any time, it used to be free if you got validation. I would like definitely for the city to take more, let's call it, have more agency in how the Americana is run. A couple of months ago, I got myself involved in some kind of small protest at Americana. I wanted to play their piano, and okay, they don't let you play the piano, but I got the okay from council that public pianos will be installed, and so I would like to work with basically this board, because I know I mean, in facilitating where we should put those pianos, because I know our adult recreation center has a piano, but you need to be a member to go, and I don't want to pay the $20. Let me just say this, Mr. President Meek, incidentally, you were at council as well when we were, our founder, one of our pioneers is Leslie Brand. The word brand is already part of our identity in Glendale. So I was very surprised in a good way to learn that Mr. Brand owned 6 pianos himself. And I was at the Historic Center today, I mean, the room. I was not able to find out where they are, but yes, I would like for there to be 6 pianos in Glendale, public pianos. This is a topic for another time, so let me go on. In a more serious tone, I'm definitely worried about Shoal Canyon becoming a gas plant. Even if it happens, though, this is my idea, that there needs to be a wildfire prevention program, and I'm talking about because we have a very big ecologically minded even city council. I want a vast sprinkler system on the Verdugo Mountains, on the San Rafael Hills, because as we found out, wildfires create much more pollution than have created much more pollution in the last couple of years than all of the efforts we did at reducing, I don't know, carbon and all that stuff. We need to irrigate, and I hope I can say this as an Armenian, like my ancestors 100 years ago in Urfa, they were also canal builders, like we irrigated. So I would like to see a big irrigation system project. I want the firefighters involved. I am volunteering myself. Maybe we already have it, and I don't know. I've definitely seen pipes up there. Just if you could let me know also if that's an idea. Finally, in a more friendly way, I mean this in a joking way as well, because I'm Armenian. Hopefully I can say this as well, like kind of making fun of myself, because we're talking about branding. Glendale, I'm proposing we rename, or at least add as a subtitle to our Mount Tom, which is up, sorry, it's up there, I think. I would like it to be subnamed Mount Ararat II, in honor of Armenians. Why? Because, simply because, like, it means a lot to us, the mountain. The Armenians, I think, they came to the city because of the mountains and so on and so on. Now, even if you don't do that, the second part, it's still fine, because I gave you some other stuff to think about. Nonetheless, thank you for the time.
And thank you for your words.
Okay. But do you know if the watering program is something feasible or if it's too outlandish, the sprinkler program?
I will turn this over to Onig, but I believe they are slowly developing a park for up there, which would be irrigated.
Okay.
Are you talking about Shoal?
Shoal, but also the Verdugo Mountains.
Putting irrigation pipes in the Verdugo Mounds as well as San Rafael Mounds will be a big undertaking. It'll come with a cost. Not sure how much that would be. In terms of Shoal Canyon landfill, we'll include irrigation as part of the planning process. It all depends on what type of cover they will put in before they close off the landfill.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. There are any other cards?
I'm sorry?
Were there no other card speakers? Okay, thank you. We can go on to the next item.
Sure, next item, 6, consent items. At A, approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on March 20th, 2023.
Okay. Do we need a roll call on that?
Yes, we need a motion and a second, please.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move the motion to approve the minutes.
And a second? Thank you.
And
Roll-
I'll take roll call. Alcazar?
I will sustain. I was not present.
Kalfayan?
Yes.
Sardarbegian?
Yes.
Wilson is absent, and President Meek.
Yes.
Okay. Item 7, reports information only at A, annual volunteer report for March 1st, 2022 through February 28, 2023.
President Meek, members of the commission, I'm not sure if the report, we don't need to do a full report since it kind of goes hand in hand with the volunteers that we recognize, but just in summary, just wanted to mention that there was a total of 4,018 hours between the period of March 1st, 2022 to February 28th of 2023 that staff was able to log. Obviously, due to COVID, a lot of the volunteers stopped volunteering, and as we went back into regular business, we weren't tracking all the hours as well as we normally would and in previous years. So we're going to start tracking more hours. And we also only report volunteers that volunteer hours, like for the one-day volunteers, whether it's high school students that are making up hours or one-time volunteers that might come and do some work at the community center or serve lunch. We don't normally track those hours, and so we only track volunteer hours where the individuals are going to be able to commit and volunteer regularly. But just wanted to just do a quick summary and say that even though there was very limited volunteers this year, we did count over 4,000 hours of volunteer work that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to do if it was staff that had to do it. So we appreciate and thank all the volunteers and want the public to know that there are opportunities. So if they're interested, whether it's for school or just for individual interest, we welcome them at our community centers and for our programs, and thank them. So that's it.
Thank you.
Item 7B, report by city attorney regarding youth commissioner selection process and commissioner code of conduct.
Here we go.
President Meek, members of the commission, good afternoon. My name is Mike Garcia. I'm the city attorney, and here to talk to you about two items. One related to the youth commissioners. So as you may be aware, last month or at the end of March, the city council adopted an ordinance which provides for youth commissioners for this commission as well as the Arts and Culture Commission and Traffic and Parking Commission. And our Sustainability Commission already has already been established with youth commissioners, although they have not yet appointed them. So the ordinance that the council adopted at the end of March, which is now effective, has a process by which the boards and commissions that will have youth commissioners can themselves appoint those commissioners. So it will not be the council that's appointing those commissioners. It will be this commission for the Parks, Recreation, Community Services Commission. The ordinance provides that the commission can have up to 2 youth commissioners or up to 2 student commissioners, and provides that if this commission appoints 2 commissioners, that you endeavor to have one from high school, a local high school, and one from a college. The ordinance provides that the youth commissioners or student commissioners be no older than 25, recognizing that you'll have some, you may have a community college student who is sort of a working student and maybe a little bit older, but at least endeavor to be that age. So at the city manager's office is preparing an application process for the student commissioners. The commission at a future meeting will have to adopt a resolution sort of establishing the process by which you're going to appoint those youth commissioners. And again, it'll be up to this commission to decide for yourself whether you have 1 or 2 commissioners and go through that process. And I know the city manager's office will be in contact with Mr. Bolanikian once applications are received, and then you can decide how to move forward with your process. So before I move on to the code of conduct, are there any questions regarding the student commissioners that will be joining this body? Okay. Mr. Kaufman.
How long would they be, what's the term limit?
Good question. It'll be up to this commission to decide. So I think the staff recommendation will be like a year, because again, they're going to be rolling in and out of their schools and whatnot, but it'll be up to this commission ultimately to decide. I think the Sustainability Commission, which is the first one that's gone down, at least started this process, is doing one-year terms. So that'll allow a new student every year to come on board, at least one new student to come on board every year. But again, that'll come back to you, and you will decide what you think is the appropriate term.
Anyone else have a question? Oh, thank you.
Okay, I'll go on to, a couple of years, it's been a couple of years now, the city council adopted a code of conduct that applicable to both boards and commissions as well as to the city council. I don't have the clicker, so maybe, I don't know if I can just ask you to move. Oh, it's right here, sorry. Let me get my notes here. Recognizing that our boards and commissions, as well as the council, is sort of the public face of the city. In the case of the Parks Commission, the public face of the city relating to parks and recreation and community services issues, wanted to establish sort of baseline rules in terms of how each commission deals with the public, how you deal with each other, how you deal with staff, and so that so we're all kind of on the same page in how we're communicating with each other and acting. So that's kind of what this overall is. The council wanted to set these norms and behaviors for all of us to understand what rules are guiding us as we're interacting with each other. So the first sort of set of categories that the council establishes rules governing the conduct, how you all deal with each other, trying to honor and respect the role of the chair. What that means acting through the chair when you're dealing with the staff or members of the public. If there's disagreement about the agenda's chair, how they're governing the meeting, or how they're acting in terms of interacting with the public, that you do it respectfully, make objections politely and within reason. Also, it's very important. It's very important to the council that we all act with civility and decorum. And what that doesn't mean is that we don't have to ask tough questions or difficult questions, that there's not going to be challenges to the point of views expressed by staff or by members of the public, but then when we do so, we avoid personal comments, threatening or abusive comments, and that we not engage in debate with members of the public. We understand that everybody has different points of view coming at this when you come and sit down here, but trying to find common ground and seek compromise that benefits the community as a whole. The next category that the council wanted to ensure that we have sort of a baseline set of goals and rules is how we interact with the public during public meetings. And again, this isn't the first time, obviously, some members of the public interact with the city is when they come to a meeting to address an issue or ask that the Parks Commission do something just like the last speaker did. Obviously it's okay to ask questions for clarification. But it's important that you as a commission, and I saw you all doing this, and I've seen you interact with the public numerous times, give the speakers your undivided attention. That's important. Avoid engaging in debate with the speaker. If you have questions, feel free to, and that doesn't mean you're going to agree with every speaker that comes before you, but that does mean that you're going to give them your undivided attention and ask questions for clarification, but not for the purpose of engaging in debate. There are a series of rules that the council wanted all the boards and commissions to be aware of as it relates to interactions with staff. Obviously, it's important that you as commissioners treat all the staff as professionals, and poor behavior towards staff is not acceptable. The idea here is that we want clear, honest communication that respects the abilities, experience, and dignity of the staff and of you. And that we not engage in activities that are publicly criticizing the performance of an employee during a public meeting. Obviously, again, that doesn't mean you have to agree with staff, but it does mean that we treat staff with respect. It's important that the members of all our boards and commissions not direct the staff in an administrative function. The staff works through Mr. Bolanikian, that's your contact, and obviously Ms. Alexandri and some of the staff members. But it's not the role of boards and commissions to direct staff in their work on an individual level. Obviously, you adopt a policy here, then it's an expectation that the staff carries that out, but it's not the role of any individual board member, commissioner, or council member to direct the work of staff. It's important that if you have an alliance, or if you have a connection with an elected official, or you yourself or ever decide to run for an elected office, that you not solicit political support from members of staff. They have a role they work through either the department head or the city manager, and that role has to be respected. Something else I'll point out is that the city attorney, me and my staff, we represent the city. Our client's the city. So, and it's important to recognize that we work through the elected officials or the city manager on a particular issue, or issues as they come before, and there's no attorney-client relationship between our office and any of you as an individual. So that's important to recognize. Same, just like with staff, we cannot take direction from individual commissioners. We take our direction either through the council or maybe city manager. Again, in terms of personal conduct, this is sort of common sense stuff about acting in a business-like manner, avoid abusive contact with staff members. It's important, and I've obviously it's not been an issue with this commission, so I applaud you. But attending your meetings and being prepared for those meetings, and providing advance notice if you're not going to be available. There's a lot of work that goes into these meetings, obviously, so it's important that we all be prepared when they start. And then participate in the meeting deliberations is also very important, and not to ask employees to work on non-city business. Some of these, again, common sense ones, but I'll put them up there, but don't have to say them. Obviously, if ever you receive information in confidence, whether it's attorney-client or some other confidential information, maybe it's related to an employee, it's very important that you maintain that confidentiality. Again, you're acting on behalf of the city, and it's important that you maintain any confidences, any information that's given to you in confidence. Obviously, there's a lot of information that's given to you that you're going to be ultimately discussing in this setting. That's obviously free to discuss with the public, but it's important that we maintain confidences when it's appropriate. And again, it's any action that any individual representative of the city, whether it's an employee, an elected official, or an appointed member of a board or commission, there could be liability that attaches to the city if any of those representatives engage in activities that violate federal, state, or local anti-discrimination laws. So we strongly encourage you to avoid any such activity. Some other personal conduct rules, obviously avoid being intoxicated at work or in this setting. Don't if you've had a couple of drinks before your meeting, whatever, on a private setting, do not come to your meeting. Do not come to city business. I know it's common sense, but fortunately it has happened. So we do have to provide that admonition. And then a couple other categories, interactions with the media. We ask that you get contacted by the media on maybe something that comes before the Parks and Recreation Commission and Community Services Commission, that you interact with Mr. Bolanikian. It's really the role of a council member, such as the mayor or city manager or somebody from my office, depending on the issue, to be involved with the interaction with the media. And again, that's just to avoid misconceptions, avoid dual statements that may conflict. So that's really important. That's part of our media policy, that any media inquiries be referred to Mr. Bolanikian or the city manager's office. Social media, again, I know depends on the individual who's out there on social media. If you are speaking on social media, we ask that you make it clear that you're speaking on behalf of yourself and not on behalf of the entire commission or on behalf of the city. There is a more recent rule that was adopted a couple of years ago related to Brown Act committees such as this one, which provide, typically a Brown Act violation occurs if 3 of you are talking about an issue that pertains to your jurisdiction outside. What this rule, AB 992, that was adopted at the end of 2021 says is that if there's two members of a board or commission that are communicating on social media, that would violate this particular statute. So for example, if one of you were to say, hey, I went to this event that we put on in the city of Glendale, and the others just did the thumbs up emoji, that would technically violate this statute. So if you see any of your commissioners putting information about any of our events, that's great, but I just ask that you not respond to it. It seems a little inane to me, but that is the rule, so I have to advise you of that. This doesn't necessarily apply to you. This is, again, anything where you're acting as a judge. I'm not sure if any of those really apply to you, but would just encourage you, obviously, if you have matters that relate to, for example, maybe a particular fee that comes before you, to not have interactions with individuals outside of the meeting context. And in other words, don't say, I'm going to vote this way, or I'm not going to vote this way, until you've come to the meeting and heard from all your colleagues, and heard from the staff, and heard from the public. So this policy is, the council wanted, obviously, to have some teeth to it, but obviously there are many avenues for us to sort of address any behaviors that might violate this. But just so you know, obviously the worst case scenario is if these are either serious, egregious violations of the policy or repeated violations of the policy, the council does have the authority to remove a board commissioner. Also, the council can censure any member of a board or commission, or it can refer the matter to this particular board or commission to consider maybe not removal, certainly a censure. So with respect to ethics training, the council would like all the boards and commission members, even though it's not this statute, AB 1234, is not necessarily applicable to each of you, is asking that all of you take AB 1234 training every 2 years. And it really kicks in from the time I make this presentation to you, and there are some resources here. These California Department of Justice and ILG, or the California Department of Justice trainings are online and they're free, and you can just do that. They take a couple of hours. And then there's also this Institute for Local Government also provides them, although there is a charge. So with respect to the policy, it's important, the council wants to make sure that you review it. I provided it as part of your packet, and there's a place for, after you've reviewed it, to sign it. So if after you've taken a look at it, if you could sign it and provide a copy, your signature, either you can provide it to me or you can provide it to Mr. Bolanikian. That way we have it on file that you've received the training and you've received the, what do you call it, the actual code of conduct, and you've reviewed it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the policy. I thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? No, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Next item on the agenda.
Next item on the agenda is reports for information only, 7C. It's proposed parks, open space, and recreation master plan and general plan update. And Joe will be here to present the report.
Hi, good afternoon, President Meek, commissioners. My name is Joseph Gonzalez. I'm the park planner for the city. And I'm providing an update on the proposed parks, open space, and recreation master plan and general plan update. And so for some context, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, the Community Services and Parks oversees 286 acres of developed parkland, consisting of 47 parks and park facilities, plus over 5,000 acres of open space, which serves a population of over 192,000 residents. California state law requires that each city prepares a comprehensive general plan to address and meet community needs. Glendale's general plan has 3 elements specific to parks and open space. Two are mandated topics, including open space and conservation, and one is an optional topic focused on recreation. And so a quick history on the parks-related elements in the general plan. In 1972, the first open space, conservation, recreation element is prepared. About 20 years later, in 1993 and 1996, the city completes updates to the open space and conservation element and the recreation element and adopts them separately. About 10 years later, in 2006, there is a partial update to the open space and recreation elements to include the downtown specific plan. And then just separately in 2008 and 2012, a trails master plan, a safe and healthy streets plan, and a bicycle master plan are completed by the city, but those are not integrated into the open space and conservation element or recreation element. And lastly, in 2016, the LA County Parks and Recreation Department completes a countywide parks and recreation needs assessment. Subsequently, the voters did approve Measure A, and now it is a county tax measure that funds park projects. The city does receive a direct allocation, and then there are competitive grant programs through Measure A. That assessment did identify South Glendale as a very high-needs park community, and we continue to provide updates to the county based on our facilities updates annually. And there was an update in 2022 that incorporated the latest information. And so what's in the current open space and conservation element? So the latest comprehensive update was in 1993. It included 13 goals and 65 objectives. Some of the key goals from that element include identifying, acquiring, and protecting open space, protecting sensitive open space, establishing a management plan for the open space, ensuring public participation in the planning efforts and implementation of those open spaces, and then developing a trail system. Regarding the recreation element, which had its latest comprehensive update in 1996, includes 7 goals, 10 objectives, and 39 policies. Some of the key goals from that element include expanding the quantity and quality of recreational experiences within the city, supplementing existing parkland assets with new acquisitions and new park development, continuing the management or high-quality management of existing facilities, providing access to all of our recreational facilities, coordinating cooperative use of our existing assets, and then also development of a trail system. So there's some overlap between the two elements. And so what we're proposing now is a new parks, open space, and recreation master plan and general plan update that builds on decades of park planning with new analysis and new community engagement that will provide an updated roadmap for the city's parks and open spaces and recreation, the goals and priorities for the next 20 years. This plan will also update the general plan elements for open space and recreation. And we would anticipate this planning process to take about 12 months. And so the scope of work that we're proposing includes 6 tasks, including community outreach and engagement, a parks assessment, a recreation assessment, an open space and conservation assessment, an acquisition study, and then lastly, a financial and implementation plan. So for task 1, for the community outreach and engagement task, we did want to be explicit in the public engagement strategy that we're proposing. And so we have outlined at least 6 community meetings, at least 4 focus group meetings, a citywide community needs survey that is statistically relevant, receives a large number of respondents and available in multiple languages, and also to identify community liaisons and leaders to help at the outreach process to ensure that community members are aware of this planning process as it's moving forward. Regarding public information, we will be utilizing the city's social media engagement to support outreach for this plan and also citywide website updates. We would also hope to create promotional videos to highlight to the community the work that's being performed, potentially in partnership with GTV6. We would like the consultant to attend at least 3 city council meetings, at least 3 park commission meetings, and at least 5 citywide meetings, such as planning commission. Potentially these could roll over into additional park commission meetings, and also add services to allow the option for additional community engagement activities. So we want to allow for additional outreach if case it's needed throughout the planning process. Task 2 is focused on the parks assessment. And so the subtask under this task is for, the first subtask is to assess the current conditions of all of Glendale's parks and open spaces. And so as I've mentioned, the city currently provides updates to the county on our current park facilities. And so this would essentially be providing a full inventory of our current assets. The Public Works Department is currently undergoing a citywide facilities survey or assessment. And so we're hoping to roll that into our understanding of our current parks facilities into a larger plan so that that information is captured. Additionally, we'd also want to capture the urban tree inventory from the Public Works Urban Forestry Group to help support an understanding of where the tree inventory is currently and where there may be gaps. Additionally, the third subtask is to develop a connectivity and accessibility inventory of the parks So accessibility refers more to the internal circulation and access within our park. So from the parking lot to access or amenities, is that accessible route intact? And is there any improvements that are necessary? And externally, the connectivity to our parks, and which parks are in high-need communities that are inaccessible or do not have, are not easily accessible through non-motorized means. And so this could at least provide us with an assessment for which parks should be prioritized for additional connectivity goals. And lastly, to develop an overall set of goals and strategies that essentially analyzes these assessments and provides recommendations for sustainable and equitable project implementation. So the task 3 of the proposed master plan would analyze and assess the current recreational programs and services within the city and identify opportunities and deficiencies for future recreation programs and services. Additionally, it would identify current gaps in our facilities and recreational needs, and also compare our level of service with that of other cities to help us develop facilities standards and develop a plan for future recreational services. Task 4 is for the open space and conservation assessment. So as previously stated, the city manages over 5,000 acres of open space. And so the first subtask is to prepare a habitat conservation fund that identifies opportunities for habitat restoration and enhancement, climate smart management strategies, and habitat linkages and wildlife corridors. And so as part of this process, we would be performing biological and wildlife surveys within our open spaces, which to my understanding haven't been completed since the 1993 element was completed. And so this would help to identify areas of sensitive habitat, areas that have been impacted by climate change or recent wildfires that may need have restoration opportunities or require additional management strategies. Typical climate smart management strategies include fuel management or modifications, invasive weed removal, sometimes controlled burns and other strategies that help to maintain wildfire control within certain areas that they don't get too large. And then habitat linkages really looks at more regionally how our open spaces connect regionally to other open spaces and how they can have a larger regional impact and connections to other open spaces. So that would be looked at a larger regional context to provide some additional planning support for our open spaces. Additionally, this assessment would include a trail opportunities and management plan. There was a 2009 trails plan that was completed. Since 2009, I believe only one of the trails has been completed that was identified, which was the Catalina Verdugo Trail adjacent to the sports complex. And so this would help to incorporate those trail amenities that were identified through that master planning process into an open space element, and then help to identify management plans to ensure that those are maintained long-term. A management plan was also identified as a need through the Trails Master Plan, so this would actually start to develop some recommendations on that planning process. The third component subtask here is identifying or increasing access points. And so this isn't only identifying where the access points to trails occur, but to support sustainable recreation, access points should not only have signage identifying the trail location, but also identify the full trail map, provide interpretive information around the habitat and wildlife that may be encountered upon the trail, support stewardship through our trail guests, should have identifiable trash receptacles in vicinity that support packing out any trash that you bring into our open spaces, and also available restrooms and parking. So this would support increased access to our open spaces. And lastly, to support urban greening, so not only looking at conservation in our open spaces, but bringing that opportunities down into our urban areas. Obviously, we can incorporate elements that were identified within the Upper LA River Tributaries Plan in restoring the Verdugo Wash. There could be other opportunities to naturalize or restore stream or other open space elements in our urban areas. Task 5 is for Parks and Open Space Acquisition Study, which would study the feasibility of acquiring open space or underutilized urban land for park development within the city, especially in South Glendale, which is park poor. And so this has been a priority, I know, both of the commission and council to identify new or more additional opportunities for park acquisitions. So this would provide a preliminary analysis of properties. Still at a high level, it would most likely evaluate properties based on land ownership, land use, adjacencies, just to identify opportunities for possible acquisitions. And lastly, task 6 is a financial and implementation plan. So a financial planning around what's been recommended for new recreational and park services, develop a budget for, say, the recreational program plan, and also for our capital improvements. So providing an estimated cost and range of those proposed improvements. And then subtask C would then prioritize projects based on the condition, need, and opportunity. Additionally, beyond just the prioritization, it would identify potential funding opportunities for these improvements and also identify any need for future policy or ordinance changes as a result of the proposed improvements. And this would all be incorporated into a formal master plan. I think the master plan is a little different from the element, whereas the element is more focused on goals, objectives, and inventory, where the plan would then pull that forward into how that would be prioritized and implemented. So that's an overview of the plan. We just also wanted to highlight some of the secondary and tertiary benefits of completing this type of plan. For one, it prepares the city for going after additional park funding, both for capital improvement, but also say for programming. Locally, that could be through Measure A, which is a direct parks program, so it's a direct connection, but if multi-benefit projects are identified, it could also, we could go seek funding through stormwater and transit programs. Through the state, likewise, there's a state parks agency that provides funding for parks improvements. But additionally, the California Natural Resources agencies directly, as well as through the local conservancies like the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and the Wildlife Conservation Board, all provide funding for natural resource improvements that this plan could help prepare us for. I'd also mention, which is highlighted on the slide, is that there's a potential for a 2024 bond on the ballot, which is likely to be for climate resiliency, which could range between $4 to $7 billion. And just to highlight how parks and open space aligns to the state's larger climate policy portfolio, the ones that relate to more parks and open space are in a red block, especially the ones on the lower, right in the top right corner of the slide. You can see that the protecting and managing of natural working lands is one of the key policies that they identify. And within that, forests and urban green space are kind of key land types that can be eligible for climate resiliency funds. So, you know, maintaining our forests and restoring habitat are all climate resilient strategies. You know, they sequester carbon, and those have been identified through the state as opportunities. There's also opportunities to request funding through legislative member requests, and this planning supports community-driven and science-led approach to identifying projects. Lastly, just mentioning there's funding through the federal government, through the bipartisan infrastructure law, ARPA, and as well as the opportunity now to request earmarks through our federal representatives. And lastly, just highlighting that by doing a multi-benefit and multi-departmental project identification process, that we're helping to break down silos between departments within the city. And the types of projects that we highlight are like walkway, bikeway, trail planning, stormwater planning, urban forestry, open space management for wildfire, flood, and habitat restoration, and also for facilities improvements and solar projects. So just highlighting next steps. So we're still finalizing the scope, and we're coming to the commission to provide feedback on the scope we've outlined. And we also plan to touch base with other departments to provide feedback on the scope. Once the scope is finalized, we will release an RFP. At this time, we have allocated $500,000 through Measure S to support this planning effort. Once that RFP is released, we will select a planning consultant to initiate the work. And again, we anticipate this process to take 1 year. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions. And please feel free to share any feedback as well after the commission meeting is. So thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have questions?
I think it was an abundant amount of information, so I think I would.
Mike?
I think it was a lot of information. Thank you. I need some time to digest it and see if there's anything else. So maybe in the future, I'll come with a list for you.
You know I have questions. No, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm, as you know, very excited for this to move forward. I see, a lot of potential for very concrete opportunities based on just what you shared in the report and the presentation. Can you just clarify the relationship between the elements again in the master plan? So, because the elements are official general plan documents, right? And so I think you're saying that the master plan will take the goals and principles that are in and objectives that are in the elements and actually put some action into place.
Yeah, exactly. Because essentially the elements seem to more highlight the objectives and goals. It does have the financial strategy, so a lot of these elements will still be incorporated. So I'll just go back to the overview. But it's really taking that implementation planning and actually setting some priority and putting some timelines on it that I don't think the elements would include.
Yeah, okay. No, there are already great goals and objectives in the elements. I was just wondering also, so are we going to sort of evaluate our progress that we have completed in those elements and then kind of push forward from there? Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. So I saw the mention of some of the other master plans that recently passed, right? Trails, safe and healthy streets, the bicycle plan, which I think is going to be updated soon as well, right? Mm-hmm. So your goal is to also incorporate those into the master plan. Can we also actually consider the public art master plan in that list?
Yes, yes, that seems very relevant to the list.
Amazing. Also because there are a lot of public art fixtures in a lot of our parks, and that's not to say, right, that we can have more. So, and then they can also be more natural installations that I think, we have a lot of space for.
Just to clarify the request, the current master plan that was approved by Library Arts and Culture,
Correct.
You want that as part of our master plan as well?
To incorporate those goals, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Most of the goals on their master plan have already been incorporated, such as Fremont, Adams Mini, and I believe Central Park. They're working on Glen Oaks median, but we'll definitely look into that and work with library folks. Absolutely. Sure.
Okay. Did you want to comment on that?
So you want to put out an RFP. Will this consultant know how much money they're going to be able to work with, whether it's $1 or $1 million?
President Meek, members of the commission, that is a very good question. We know we're currently budgeted for $500,000 for this project, and we also anticipate, given the scope of work as expanded as it is a probability that it might require more than $500,000. So we're going to put the RFP out with the goal of achieving everything we've laid out in this particular plan, go through the process, select a consultant who is most feasible for what we're looking for, and as Joe had said, the most responsible consultant for this task, and identify what their funding needs are to complete it, and then evaluate at that point whether we have to value engineer it, determine portions of this particular plan, we do it now, and then incorporate a future one, or eventually take this item to get some additional funding by council, get their approval to enhance the dollar amount that we've allocated and be able to complete it as a whole. So we will know once we do release the RFP, what those proposals will be, and at that time evaluate whether we do it all at once or focus on the available funding and what we do first, and then the ones in the future. Ideally, we'll be able to encompass one plan that goes forward as a whole, the way the RFP will be laid out.
Okay, so the city has been setting aside some funds, as I understand it, toward parks. And their consultant will have that access to what that is at that time?
No, President Meek, members of the commission, the Measure S funds that have been set aside for this project is $500,000. The funds that you're talking about is for land acquisition, and I believe we about $2 million. We won't be using the $2 million to fund this project.
Right.
We'll be using the $500,000 to fund this project. If we need additional funds, like what Mr. Gonzalez had mentioned, we would apply for grant funding or look at other funding sources within the city to fund the gap that we might face.
Okay.
President Meek, if I may add, Mr. Bolinican was right on point. If I could add to it, whenever the determination and the master plan is adopted, and one of the elements is, for example, to acquire more land to build, the funding that is set aside for the acquisition and building of parks will be utilized to actually foresee the plan moving it forward. So those funds will be utilized to purchase additional land, do the acquisition and build parks, likely look for additional sources and increase our ability to do so. But for the plan itself, we only have the $500,000 for the consulting process, and the $2 million Mr. Bolinican referred to will be used to implement the plan by purchasing additional land as we move forward.
Yeah, and I definitely want to, I see the open space on the map he presented, and I want to protect that from development and keep it open space. And at the same time, I really want to focus on acquiring property, land in South Glendale to increase the park space, which is going to be an expensive process, since basically we're going to have to buy something that's already been developed in order to create open space. And I really would like that to be part of the RFP in identifying places where we could do that. And the Healthy Streets and LA Bicycle plans that were not included in this, is it just that they were expensive, or they weren't developed well enough?
No, so the update, the last update was in 2006, so it predates when those master plans were completed. So essentially now we'd just be pulling them in. So we could be just incorporating them, but considering that the parks and they don't necessarily relate directly to each other. So that's why we related connectivity to parks may be a priority that we emphasize through the plan and evaluate. And so there may be overlapping with the bike master plan with connection to parks. But that would, again, be a priority that through the planning process would have to, identify, say, safe routes to parks as a priority. And then maybe corridors are identified to support that. But it would kind of move through probably that process.
Okay. When you had mentioned working with the other departments, and I've been reading lately about the storm drains and all the trash that goes into the ocean or has been trapped in some cases. I noticed that a lot of the drains in Glendale that go to the ocean or go to Verdugo Wash, which go to the ocean, don't have screens or anything on them. That would be greatly help in keeping the trash out of that system. And I'd love for word to get out about that. And you said the timeline for this is basically 1 year after the RFP has been issued?
Well, once the consultant is brought on board. So sometimes it takes like 2 or 3 months from the RFP. The intent to award is identified, and then typically there's a process to award the contract, which takes a couple months.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just had one question, and then I have a few comments. So my last question was on outreach. You did, provide an extensive summary of your plan for that. I know that it has sometimes been challenging for the city to complete outreach or, to get a substantial amount of feedback from the community. And so I was wondering what types of meetings, we were planning on hosting, if that were sort of just only hosted by parks and just specifically for the master plan. And then if there was going to be some type of online engagement tool as well, because I know that, we've all learned from COVID that that has actually been a really beneficial part of what came out of COVID, is some type of like online map where people can leave feedback passively, right? It's just online and people can log in whenever they're available and provide feedback that way.
So we're thinking of the community meetings being standalone, so it will be dedicated to this planning process, so that would be specific to this. I mean, there's still a question as to how the outreach consultant will be a part of this process. Are they a member under the planning consultant, or do we want to have it a separate contract, just so we have a direct relationship with that outreach person, and maybe instead of having like a public relations firm, it's more someone specific who works with communities like ours. So we do want to be sensitive to ensure that that the engagement will be fair, responsive to our community. And then we did highlight a community-wide needs survey. I mean, we definitely wanted to emphasize that it would be statistically relevant, so that it's representational of our community, and also have a large number of respondents. So that's going to be something we wanted to spell out in the RFP as well, just so that we ensure that they understand what we expect, and when they price it or propose it, that they have clear understanding of our expectations. As far as a tool.
And if I may add to that, President Meek, members of the commission, Commissioner Alcazar, so with the 6 community meetings, ideally we will be dispersing it throughout different parts of the city to allow, different times of day, weekends and nights, to allow more segments of the population the ability, if they're workaholics, to be able to attend. Part of it, we can give consideration to having a virtual meeting. So it could be one of these, or a separate standalone virtual meeting where a lot of people tend to just sit at their home, be able to attend. So we'll work with the consultant to figure if there are mechanisms to be able to deliver that, allow the public to, provide their comments. I participated in a virtual one when LA County was doing their assessment. After they had some feedback and they were starting to present some of their findings, I participated in that. It was virtual, albeit it was during COVID, but it seemed to get a lot of attention by folks who are not able to physically be present. So there'll be a lot of different mechanisms and ways we're looking at conducting this, and we will be taking that into consideration in hiring the consultant based on their feedback. There will be some consulting firms who do have a PR segment within their firm, or some will present a sub-consultant under them that is more PR and does outreach. It's going to be part of the evaluation process, but the intent is try and reach as much of the population in Glendale as we can to get their feedback, so we have a very comprehensive plan when we bring it forth for adoption.
Our department hosts a lot of events too, so I'll just say, we should definitely take advantage of having a table or booth at our events, of course.
Absolutely, and that's where the surveys come into play to get a statistical what was the word you're using?
Statistically relevant.
Statistically relevant survey. We do need a lot of surveys done. Yeah. Hence, one of the reasons why we do want to extend this out, give it at least a year for the process, because it will take time for the consultant to come on board, study what we have, and then start setting these different community meetings, attend commission meetings, attend council, get feedback, go back to the drawing board. It will be a lengthy process, but I think it will be a very worth process, so that we can put in good effort and get, again, a real comprehensive plan developed moving forward.
And hopefully it will be iterative or successive, so it's not just at the beginning, but maybe after we've gotten the feedback and develop some of the planning efforts to go back and make sure we heard the things correctly.
Awesome. Did you have a comment on that? I just have 2 thoughts. Also, because this is a big opportunity. We can really dream big here. So I wanted to build off of, I think, what President Meek mentioned earlier, which was the thought of how to think about our more urban areas and green them, introduce, more natural landscaping, which was under task number 4D. And then related, which was towards the end, was breaking down the department silos with the bike plan and complete streets. I kind of want to push this a little more to see more creative solutions for reducing heat and pollution, again, using natural landscaping. Maybe, we can even consider connecting our parks in some way, right? I think that's where you were going with that. Right, you mentioned the Verdugo Wash feasibility project. At one point, there was a study, I don't know if anyone has mentioned this to you, but there was a thought of putting a cap over the 134 freeway, which was going to be very expensive, and who knows, it could still happen. But to my knowledge, that was also a huge undertaking for community engagement, and there's a lot of good ideas that came out of that. I'm saying it's still a possibility. So again, it's just, if we can specify that we really want creative solutions in the scope of work, ideas that, we've never heard of, I'd love to, make sure we can emphasize that. I'll also add that I think there's a potential for the use of zoning to really, like you were saying, preserve certain areas of our neighborhoods and conserve specific areas for greening or parks, things like that. Even like the neighboring, the areas around it. For example, in Portland, they use or they recently adopted greenway overlay zones. I think it's adjacent to their river, so that's using or only allowing very specific uses near those rivers. And my last thought I wanted to raise, I appreciated the mention of assessing equitable and inclusive access to our parks, of course. And I know our department has really made this a priority, especially with Duke Magian and, trying to have families from South Glendale move up to or have a form of transportation to get up there. So kind of along those lines, I kind of want to consider how we can think about equity for our conservation programs as well. And that's not to say, that our department doesn't do an already great job, but I think, there's definitely room for more opportunity here. So I'm thinking about, the original stewards of our lands, which is the Tongva Nation, and if there's room to share those conservation rights. Thinking, keeping an open mind here. We have a lot of land. We certainly can have or use a lot of help to really think about how to use our open trails and spaces. For example, I know that there's different models for this. Last year, Altadena, a private owner transferred ownership to the Tongva Nation. It's the first time they've ever owned any property on the land that they previously inhabited. And another example was in the city of Oakland, where the city still maintains ownership of a park. It's a 5-acre park. However, they've granted an easement to their indigenous people to allow them free range access to provide or to do ceremonies, to close the park for restoration projects. So, again, there's different ways we can think about this. Obviously, conversations with the Tongva Nation, which I know we have a relationship with already, as well as maybe the city attorney for how to do that. I have no clue legally how to do that. But I just wanted to mention that as a thought and hope that we can consider that in the master plan.
Yeah, potentially. I'm unaware, but if there's cultural assets within our forest areas, like that could be an opportunity to build off of. I know throughout the county, I've heard of like youth stewardship programs, like either through the Conservation Corps, that maybe this program could also look at management strategies that incorporate those types of like youth training programs
Yeah.
or others that we can leverage like the maintenance that we were looking to do, how it can leverage to do other things and create stewards
Yeah. Yeah.
communities.
That's all for me, I promise.
Thank you. I know this will be coming back to commission and to council and many times. And I look forward to doing this. I think it is exciting that we get to move forward and, you know, try to keep our city as green as we can. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda.
Next is 7D, Park Services Section Monthly Activity Report for March 2023.
President Meek, members of the commission, we do have two reports, 7D and 7E, as an information only. If you will like, staff is here to make their presentation, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask us, or we can move forward with ending the meeting, adjournment.
I guess any questions I would have would be on the Fremont Park and keeping it up to date in terms of cleanliness and functionality. I know that since I'm there quite often is how I notice all of this and how it is a very well-used park. And I've often had complaints come to me because they know I'm a commissioner and tell me, you know, things need to be fixed. And since the date for closing the park for renovation is moved back, I would love to see a little bit more care taken there.
As President Meek duly noted, and I know you and I communicate when those, complaints come through, we appreciate that. My staff has been informed to make sure to keep things the way it's supposed to be kept as if the park is remaining open, because it is open now. And we will work with our counterparts in Public Works if there is a request that comes through. They are evaluating those requests individually when we submit them and determining if it is a safety issue they will address. Because of the resources that they have, we have probably a couple of hundred facility service requests that are floating out there for our parks across the region. And if it is a safety issue, they will prioritize and get it done. And if it tends to be an item that isn't as safety, they will list it in priority within the other facilities and get to them as well. So the point is noted as far as maintenance goes, as far as making sure everything is up to date, and we'll work with them to continue doing that as we go forward until the park is closed for its real renovation.
Okay. I'd also like to put in a plug for the historic gas station in Adams Square Mini Park that needs help and needs work on it. That the city, I believe, since it's now a historic landmark, is required to do some work on it. I see a lot of rust that needs to be addressed. So I'd like to, I know I've mentioned it in the past, and I would love to see Public Works, I believe that's their responsibility, not ours, to encourage them to think about putting that on their agenda or moving it up on the agenda before it gets any worse.
Yes, and the President Meek, absolutely, the roofing project that is moving forward, I do believe the Public Works Department is looking at putting together a number of roofing projects to a contractor and get that contract moving forward. What we'll do in our meetings with Public Works, in our capital project meetings, request that they incorporate the roofing with some painting, as we noticed at the gas station itself, to update the paints on the station once they finish the roofing as well. So I will bring that forward to Public Works as a request.
Okay, thank you. That's the only questions I have.
So the next item, are we doing?
Adjournment?
Did we need to do any report on the day camps or any of that?
If you like, that was the question I had asked. If you want us to report on it, we have staff available. If not, we can move forward with adjournment.
I would like to do that, if that's all right with my other fellow commissioners. Yes. Then we would have to adjourn.
Yeah,
We would
then
have to adjourn.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, we can't go forward because we're going to have to, we won't have a quorum.
Technically, if you'd like, we can continue without a quorum, since you're not voting, you're not taking any action, it's just information only. We could
Let's
move
do that
forward
then.
with that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so 7E is Recreation and Community Services Section, Monthly Activity Report for March and April 2023. And just the record will show that Commissioner Sardarbagian left the meeting at 3:53 and Commissioner Kalfayan at 4:04 p.m.
Good afternoon, President Meek, Commissioner Alcazar. Now that we're down to two. My name is Savag Garabedian, Community Services Manager, and I'll be doing the Recreation and Community Services Section Monthly Activity Report. Summer day camp registration. We started off May 1st was our big registration day. It started with Glendale residents only registration starting 9 a.m. on May 1st, and general registration began on 9 a.m. on Wednesday, May 3. We sold out most all of the camps on May 1. By the end of that week, we sold out just about everything with the exception of Traveling Teens Camp and Spartacular Camp for all 9 weeks of summer camps that we're providing. And when I mean just about everything, I mean our specialty camps as well. So Spark Camp will typically not sell out as it used to in the years past because parents are looking for full day care. And since SPAR is also our senior center where we're serving meals, we can't have both activities taking place simultaneously. The facility is just not large enough. So we serve the meals until noon, and then from noon to 6, we have our half-day camp. So SPAR isn't as popular as an option for parents who need the full-day childcare. And Traveling Teens, we came to commission back in March, increased the fees for Traveling Teens to operate it like our camps at Vertigo and Blast, so that the fees kind of increased, so there's going to be some fall off in terms of the enrollment. That's why that's probably not sold out until now as well. With our day camps, we offer scholarships and discounts. This is a seasonal offering. So every time we offer our day camp program, we offer a respective season scholarship and discount as well as per the policy that we had implemented. So this year we had a total of 36 families, 36 applicants that were submitted. Some of the applicants had multiple children, but the total number of children that had applied were 36. And per our administrative policy, we have allotted 5 spaces per location where we offer the full scholarship. Those 5 spaces are offered at Maple Stars at Maple Park, Cool Days at Pacific, Kinder Camp at Pacific, and Traveling Teens at Pacific. So up to 20 scholarships in total could be awarded. And then Spectacular Camp at Vertigo, Blast Camp at Brand Studios, those are 10% off only locations. So this is the way it breaks down. We had 1 applicant for Maple, and they received their full scholarship. We had 20 applicants at Cool Days at Pacific, and we lotteried off 5 spaces, and then the other 15 automatically get a 10% discount. Kinder Camp had 6 applicants, and 5 scholarships were given. 1 was 10% off. And then Traveling Teens, 6 applicants, 5 scholarships, 1 10% off. And the 3 applications we had for Spectacular at Vertigo, they automatically get the 10% off. So we had Parents Night Out at Spar Heights Community Center at the end of April on April 28th. We had about 9 participants show up to that event. They did their usual dinner, pizza, movie, crafts, games at the facility, and parents picked them up. Fortunately for us, not as late as midnight. They were done around 11:30 p.m. We had monthly presentations for our seniors. So Metro came and set up their mobile office at the Adult Recreation Center and offered Metro tap cards to our seniors. So typically Metro, we sell senior bus passes, we reload their tap cards. Typically the way that works is when seniors come up to us and ask for a new tap card, we have to refer them to the nearest local Metro office. The closest one actually is Union Station. So in this situation, we don't have to do that when they show up on site. They will issue the card right there on the spot. They'll give them their temporary card. They'll take their picture, process it, so they will mail them their tap card. And in the process, they load up for like 1 month or free as well. So it's additional benefits when they show up on site. We had an Alzheimer's awareness workshop and a balance screening as well during the month of April. Our Trails and Open Space program had its Wilderness Work Days. We conducted 2 cleanup days in April. On April 8, we had 7 volunteers at Riverwalk Work Day. And then on April 15, we had 9 volunteers at Duke Majan Wilderness Park. On April 29, staff assisted with a guided hike at Duke-Major Wilderness Park, which was paid for by the Glendale Library Arts and Cultural Department and Office of Sustainability. 25 people attended that program. And they had applied for a grant in partnership with their events for Earth Day, so they paid for us to run that program for them on that day. The Stormbar Nature Center had a group of 15 high school art students visited the park on April 23, and the Mosaic on April 27. 75 second grade students attended the field trip at the Nature Center from Mountain Avenue Elementary School. We had a Go Glendale Outdoors Community Program on April 15 focused on Earth Day, and then over 20 participants participated in the Go program designed originally for the One Glendale After School Youth Sports Program, and that was also in April. Youth and Family Services, on April 1st when we had our Easter extravaganza or spring extravaganza, our Youth and Family Services asked our teens to help us finish off putting the eggs together. So here's a picture of them in one night taking care of 4,000 eggs that our staff couldn't get to during the week. And basically they were just putting the eggs together, taping them so that when they were dispersed all over the baseball field, the eggs didn't fall apart. They had their weekly activities and programs and presentations as well. On April 14, teens received community service hours while attending Teen Night Out, helping them bag One Glendale's snacks for the Go program. They had some presentations as well, one of which was going to be presented by Officer Barrelay from Glendale PD, the dangers of fentanyl and vaping. Some of our teens were showing up late, and Officer Barrelay got called out as he was on duty. So we are postponing that very relevant topic for teens to some point in the future. Our Youth and Family Services section continued with their weekly meetings and activities, making their banners, doing their arts and crafts, learning about whatever STAR's core principles are for that month, and writing in their journals. They went on a museum trip. They went to the California Natural History Museum and the La Brea Tar Pits during the month of April. Our One Glendale sports program is coming to an end for the rest of the school year. Championship Day is going to be this Friday night. Our teams have been continuing to play each week in the soccer season. We have playoffs tomorrow and on Wednesday, with the season ending on Friday night with their championship game at Pacific Community Center. With each season, we try to do an excursion. Should there be an opportunity for this sports season with soccer, we took them to the LA Galaxy game. It was a noon game, which was better in comparison to a night game, and we took them over to Dignity Health Sports Park, and they got to watch the Galaxy play against defending champs LAFC in El Tráfico. Our therapeutic recreation program continues its weekly programs for adults with special needs with its Club Maple and Get Fit program, and we had our MIP Day take place on Saturday, April 15 at Maple Park Community Center. Here's some pictures of Club Maple and their karaoke night in April. Our Elderly Nutrition Meals program continues at ARC and Spar Heights. In March of 2023, staff served 6,033 meals in the hybrid and congregate meals program, 1,722 meals in the home delivered meals format. In April of 2023, staff served 5,561 meals in the hybrid congregate meals format and 1,505 meals in the home delivered meals format. Also during the month of April, our elderly nutrition program celebrated Easter. They had a visit from that rabbit and went to both facilities, and they took some pictures. We had the backdrop set up for them, and it's part of our agreement with the county to provide additional programs and socialization opportunities as part of the meals program. As you are aware, May is Older Americans Month, and our staff went to City Council to accept a proclamation from Council declaring May as Older Americans Month, and they have the Senior Street Fest coming up later this week. Some upcoming programs, Teen Night Out will be, let's go back, sorry, Senior Street Fest, as I was saying, that'll be this Thursday at Artsakh Paseo, formerly Maryland Avenue. We will be setting up our dining hall outdoors on the Paseo and serving lunch there. Teen Night Out will continue at Pacific on Friday evenings from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. There just are some exceptions. For the example, on May 26th, with the long weekend holiday in mind, we are not operating Teen Night Out in case people are leaving town for the weekend, because it will be a long weekend, Memorial Day weekend. As I mentioned previously, again, One Glendale's Championship Day will take place this Friday evening at Pacific Park. We've got a Wilderness Workday on May 20th and June 17th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Duke-Majin Wilderness Park. MIP Day will continue in May and in June, May 20th and June 17th. We've got smartphone training. One of them actually took place today. The Android version was today for seniors at Spar Heights Community Center. The next one will be next Monday, when they will be training on how to use an iPhone. Again, that will also be at Spar Heights Community Center. We have 8 spots per training, and we've been selling out, which is why we've been offering more and more. So very interesting to see that these programs are in demand. Excuse me. We got Riverwalk Workday coming up on May 13 and June 10. The Glendale Go program, community program, sorry, Glendale Outdoors Go community program will take place on June 10 as well, from 9 to 12. And then, as I had mentioned earlier during our meeting, our 2 volunteers that were here today, Marshall and Annie, have set up, along with some other volunteers, Combat Vet Pickleball, catering specifically to this population on Sunday, June 11, over at Pacific Community Center and Park on the outdoor courts. Then we've got another Alzheimer's presentation taking place on June 14 at the Adult Recreation Center. For more information, you could visit glendaleca.gov/CSP calendar, and all of our events and programs are advertised on that calendar. That concludes my presentation, if anybody has any questions.
No, always appreciate your presentations, Mr. Garapetian.
Thank you. The Metro Mobile, I think, is wonderful. I am so glad to hear that they're doing that. Is that on a regular basis that they'll come up?
President Meek, it's an opportunity that comes up every once in a while. We've been in contact with them to bring them out. This is the first time we were able to get them out sooner. Given the demand that we're having, the group that was here, it's a nonprofit that works with Metro. They had attended the Spring Extravaganza and the Chavez event. They too could do the same and actually help with Metro's FAIR program, which is their low reduced income program, and we're partnering with them too to come out to the community centers and do the same presentation. So whether it's Metro or through one of their affiliates, we plan on bringing them at least once a month because we still see that demand.
Okay, that's great. And the Glendale Go that happened up there at Duke-Majin, how many people were there?
For the Go program, give me 1 second, let me double check.
I'm just pleased that it's used so much, and that you're
Over
bringing
20.
people up there to experience the outdoors.
Over 20 participants.
Okay. Whether it be kids or adults, I'm glad to see that we're doing that and bringing people up there. The championship games this Friday night, did you say, at
Yes,
Pacific?
President.
Which games are those?
That's the soccer season championship game. So we'll have the consolation game at 6:30. We'll have the championship at 7:30 or immediately after. And if you will be attending, you will be given the opportunity to escort the kids onto the field. As opposed to when you see in professional soccer matches, the players will be escorted by young kids. This one in reverse, you'll have a kid in each end and you will be walking them onto the field, as we call them.
I enjoyed it last year, so I'll plan to be there.
Sounds good.
And the senior event at Artsakh, That's this Thursday, I believe?
That's this Thursday from 10:30 to about 1 o'clock. It's our Senior Street Fest and 90-plus celebration. So it's a combined event where we used to do both events separately, back-to-back. We've merged it into one, so we are going to be honoring some people who are members of our community centers that are 90 and older, or are participants in our meals program who are age 90 and older. We'll give them certificates recognizing their 90 milestone, 90th birthday or more milestone, hence 90+. And it's an opportunity to celebrate May is Older Americans Month, and we'll just be doing an event outside. So there'll be a DJ who will be performing or entertaining the seniors, and then lunch, of course, and then the celebration portion for 90+.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's all the questions I had. I appreciate your staying with us and giving the presentation.
No problem, President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda?
I'm sorry, next is adjournment.
Okay. Well, I think we can adjourn at 4:20. Thank you.